Hello, and welcome back to Shit We've Read, a sci-fi and fantasy book podcast hosted by geeky friends. I am your host, Laura Benson, and today we are going to discuss the book of Monsters and Mainframes by Barbara Truelove. Of course, always with me is my co-host, Jason Rico. Hello.
Hey, Laura. How's it going?
Pretty well. Excited for you to be here.
I'm excited to be here, as always. I mean, we say it every single time, so it starts feeling a little bit like we don't mean it, but no, genuinely I'm excited to be here.
Every time, of course. I'm also excited that we have a new guest host with us today. We know them from A Seat at the Table Books in Elk Grove, California, and they also host the Sci-Fi Fantasy Book Club there. Welcome to the show, Arden Harris.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here today.
We're excited too. We've talked about trying to get you on a few times, and so we were excited to find an episode that we thought would be really good with you.
Yeah, well, it was a very fun read, so I'm excited to get into this.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I am actually the buyer for the only bookstore in Elk Grove, A Seat at the Table Books. I have been working there basically since the beginning, and have worked my way to being the buyer and overall bookstore cryptid. Most people know my name from all of my staff picks, but I'm often hiding in the back. So it's always kind of really fun to see people picking up my staff picks from my little corner. And yeah, I obviously am an avid reader of all things sci-fi, fantasy, and dabbling into horror, especially if it's queer, I'll read it. And an aspiring writer, mother of 4 cats, and a crafter as well. I dabble in a lot of things. I have to keep my hands busy.
Awesome.
We all do, or else the nightmares creep in.
Yeah, y'all see me crocheting during book club. That's me just keeping the anxiety demons away.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Well, glad to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Also, to you guys and to our listeners, happy Pride Month. I know this episode is coming out at the end of the month, but still, this has been a really fun month.
Yes, happy Pride.
Happy Pride, everyone.
Obviously, listeners can't see, but I wore my rainbow shirt for the recording.
It's not really Pride, but it's very, very light pink shirt, which is mostly to match the book.
Right. Yeah. The book cover is very, very colorful.
Very, very pastel colors. The sprayed edges are pink.
Yeah.
This is great for an auditory thing. But yeah, anyhow.
All right. Well, before we jump into our book discussion, we always talk about what is some of the other shit we're reading. Arden, would you like to share first?
Yeah, so I'm actually reading for the Sci-Fi Fantasy Book Club right now, Notes from a Regicide by Isaac Fellman, which is a story following a young trans man that is trying to understand his adoptive parents, doing so by putting together the story of their life. And this is a very undeniably trans narrative of self-discovery and creation, and it's set in a very far future New York that is kind of more like Venice with canals because of climate change and everything. So very interesting so far, very, very touching in the form of a trans narrative. So perfect for Pride.
Nice.
You always pick such good books for the book club.
I try my best.
You do a great job.
I love hearing that.
What about you, Jason? What are you reading?
I just started Service Model by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I think I may be 10% of the way in, if that. It takes place in a world where humans rely on robot servitude, and then this one robot kind of gets this little idea and ends up murdering the human that he serves, his owner. He then escapes into the larger world and finds a society of machines that are no longer content with the robot ecosystem as it exists, that is devoted to human well-being. So as I have said multiple times, I lump my books together by genre and by theme. And so I'm definitely hard into my robot AI era, with Murderbot. And then this one, the book that we are going to discuss later, is definitely in line with that. And then Service Model is definitely another robot AI kind of book. So like I said, I just started it. It sounded very similar to Murderbot via synopsis, but it's a totally different vibe so far. So I'm very curious to see what it does with a similar premise, but told in a different way with a different tone. I've read some other books by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and I'm a fan of his writing. I'm a fan of his book, so I expect to like it. So we'll see.
It's been on my list for a while, so I'm interested to see what you think about it when you finish.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Yeah. What about you, Laura? What are you reading?
I am reading Volatile Memory by Seth Haddon. We got an arc from Tor.com, so thank you to them. It's out July 22nd, so people have a little bit of time to look into it, maybe pre-order. But it's considered Ex Machina meets This Is How You Lose the Time War. It's really interesting. I am almost halfway there. It's really hard to describe because there's a lot of weird tech stuff happening and there's just some really fascinating things in it. However, I will say that it does follow a trans woman, and so that's been really fun to see this space futuristic world from their eyes. And there's like this tech where they're masks that are based on animals, and they give you certain abilities based on that animal.
Okay.
It's really interesting. I'm still like trying to understand certain things about everything going on, but basically it starts out where she uses rabbit, but she ends up getting her hands on I think it's a hawk mask that's not been released, and somehow I think it has absorbed its previous owner's consciousness.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been really interesting, but I will also mention that it is the little blurb also says it's a heart-filled, vengeful, sapphic sci-fi action adventure novella.
Just check.
Just like everything.
Yeah.
So it's been really fun. So I'm excited to finish that. So again, it is a novella. So if anybody's a fast reader, you'll blow right through it. It's fascinating so far.
Nice.
All right. Well, let's jump into our discussion then. The featured book, again, is Of Monsters and Mainframes by Barbara Truelove. It's a sci-fi fantasy. It was published June 3rd, 2025 by Easy Cat Press, which is a bindery imprint. If anybody recognizes Easy Cat, he is a very, very well-known bookstagram book talker. So this is his second?
I think the second. Yeah, the first one was House of Frank.
That he's printed. So let's see. Jason, would you like to read the synopsis for us?
Absolutely. Okay, here we go. Spaceships aren't programmed to seek revenge, but for Dracula, Demeter will make an exception. Demeter just wants to do her job, shuttling humans between Earth and Alpha Centauri. Unfortunately, her passengers keep dying, and not from equipment failures as her AI medical system, Steward, would have her believe. These are paranormal murders, and they began when one nasty ancient vampire decided to board Demeter and kill all her humans. To keep from getting decommissioned, Demeter must join forces with her own team: a werewolf, an engineer built from the dead, a pharaoh with otherworldly powers, a vampire with a grudge, a fleet of cheerful spider drones. Together, this motley crew will face down the ultimate evil, Dracula. The queer love child of pulp horror and classic sci-fi, Of Monsters and Mainframes, is a dazzling, heartfelt odyssey that probes what it means to be one of society's monsters and explores the many types of friendship that make us human.
All right, thank you for reading that for us.
You're welcome.
To start off our discussion, let's go with non-spoiler review, first impressions. What did you both think?
I thought it was really fun. I loved all the characters. Each one just had its own special little thing that I just adored. I really loved the way the book went into giving such a human experience to Demeter. Like, that was a really fun time for me because I love my humanized bots. and humanized non-human things apparently is a theme I'm discovering lately. So it was just, I don't know, it was just fun. It was a very fun read, and I needed fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. It was a fun read. I'm a sucker for any story that recruits various characters from existing canon. This is very much like a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen kind of story. You know, you're pulling the Draculas, the werewolves, the mummies, all this stuff, and you put it together. And so that already is worth the price of admission for me. Like, I get really excited about stories that do that. And then you throw them on a spaceship, and you have, you know, AI. Like, this had all the ingredients to make a book that I really, really loved. And I did enjoy it. It was fun. I don't think it quite lived up to my expectations. Maybe that's because I went in wanting to love it so much because of all the elements. But just treating it as its own story, I thought it was a really fun read. I went through it pretty quick for the fact that I had a lot going on, but like I kept wanting to come back to it, which is always a good sign. Like I was busy, but kept thinking about, like, man, I can't wait to get back to the story. I thought this was and I think this is a debut novel. Is it not? No, is it?
I don't think so.
No, I thought it was. Okay, well, then, never mind. If it isn't, then I'm just going to cut this anyway.
We can check.
So valid. Yeah, no, she has an interactive novel called Blood Moon.
Oh, that's right.
Now I gotta go check that out.
Interactive? Is that like a choose your adventure?
That's what I'm thinking.
I think it is. Actually, I remember looking at that on her website, and I believe it is like a video game, because I think it said that it was available on Steam.
Interesting.
Yeah. We'll have to look into it after this.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it's her debut physical novel, so I was right.
We're right.
So, okay.
Indication.
Laura, what do you think?
I really enjoyed it. So there's I don't always remember everything about the synopsis, because usually when we go through and we choose our books for the season, I don't read the synopsis again until we're recording. And so I didn't really remember exactly what this book was about, other than it was a spaceship and something about Dracula. So I didn't have too many expectations. So I was very pleasantly surprised when I found that it was pulling in all of these different, like, paranormal creatures. And I thought that it was done really well in introducing each one a little bit differently, and then how they all kind of affect each other or come together in a way. So I really enjoyed all the different characters and the different personalities, and it just was a really fascinating way to blend the genres for me. And I am also very big about robots and AI and their experiences and kind of humanizing them and whatnot. And so I was very fascinated by that aspect of this book. So I would say overall, I really enjoyed it.
Nice. I do also want to add that I thought it took these existing characters from other fiction and did really breathe new life into them and give us a fresh take on them.
Yes.
Like the ship, Demeter, or you pronounce it Demeter, Arden. That is taken from the Dracula novel. That is an actual ship that Dracula was brought across the Atlantic on, right? But they're given a whole backstory. Like, it's just an actual random ship, like a boat, and now it's an AI. And then Steward, I think, is based on Seward, which is a doctor from Dracula. The author did a really good job at taking these things, but giving them brand new takes, infusing new life to them that did make it fresh. And so I did really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A question for you, Jason. I think you said you listened to the audiobook too?
Yeah, I did both.
Do they pronounce it Demeter in the audiobook, or Demeter?
I think it was Demeter. I'm almost positive. It didn't stand out as... I'm used to Demeter, but it's... Who knows?
I've heard it both ways outside of this book, so I feel like it's one of those names that it just kind of depends on who's reading it.
Let's ask a Greek.
You're right. Drop it in the comments.
All right, well, I guess now's a good time then to just go ahead and jump into spoilers. So if any of our listeners don't want to know any spoilers, go ahead and pause, go read the book, listen to the book, come back, or just keep on listening. That's cool too. All right, so I guess I want to know what was everyone's favorite character.
Ooh, starting on the clock.
Let's just start off with that, yeah.
That's kind of tough. No, it's Frank.
Frank was good. I did enjoy Frank. I think Stewart was mine.
Yeah?
I think so, yeah. I think she won me over the very first scene when she was examining, dissecting, however you want to phrase it, the fish kind of person, and kept doing all these tests, and then like they would come back inconclusive, and then so she was like, oh well, I guess I got to do more tests, like no bedside manner really, like
not at all.
And she was like excited about getting in there and cutting it open, and just like she had this itch that she needed to scratch, and I related that so much. Like I was like, ooh, you're something new and puzzling, let me get to the bottom of this. Yeah, that is me, she is I, we're the same. So Stuart.
Okay. Arden, why Frank?
Probably just because I related to he just felt like a soft boy to me, and that is also just kind of me. His relationship with the spider drones, I don't know what it is about silly little drones, but the spider drones are also my favorite.
That's right. I didn't think about those. They're so happy.
Yeah, and it's Frank and Spider Drone's relationship that really got me. I was like, Frank's just trying to prove this Spider Drone did nothing wrong. And that's so wholesome and adorable, and I love it so much. And I don't know. I was just really drawn to Frank as a character, and I think I just felt a kindred soul in them. And Spider Drones.
Yeah.
What was the drone? Again, early on, Stewart was dealing with the fish people. She had a drone kind of go out and record for her, and the drone was like programmed to like be a camera that went in like through the throat, and so the drone was just like, eat me. Like all it wanted to do was be eaten.
Yeah.
That little guy also.
That one was the little pill drone.
There you go. Thank you.
That's right. That's
I mean, an ingenious invention for medical science, but also hilarious. Yeah. Like the little, it's all the personalities that she wove into the different little drones that just, it got me. It just gets me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Laura, what was your favorite character?
You know, I'm torn between, I mean, surprise, surprise, I'm torn between Demeter and Stewart.
You love an AI.
Well, so I really like Demeter because I feel like, obviously, she was the first one that we're introduced into in the book. And so I felt like she was kind of setting the tone for what this ship is like in general. She very much reminded me, in a way, of Murderbot, in that, like, she kind of cares to a certain point. And she can't relate to the humans. She's trying. She's using what she can to understand and communicate, but she's just not great at it because it's just not part of her programming. And so I thought that that some of the interactions and like her inner thoughts working around these things was really fascinating. But obviously Stewart was just really funny.
Yeah.
And I loved the interaction when Stewart is talking to the other ships and, you know, they're like, oh, well, what's your name? They're all sharing. And they're like, oh, wait, I thought your type was discontinued or whatever, like years ago. Like, isn't there something wrong with your morality code or something like that? And I was like, oh, shit.
The ethics module.
I was like, that explains everything.
It's so funny.
It was really funny.
Yeah, Stewart's really good.
There were a lot of characters in this story, including the spider drones and the pill drones, like all these little side characters. And I thought the author did a really good job at giving them all their moment in the sun. Like I never felt overwhelmed, which can be a tall order for sure. Mm-hmm. But each one felt fully realized, unique, and like they really had a purpose. They weren't just there as fan service.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
And that applies to every character in this now found family. Like Steve, so different from all
great.
of them, but he had a purpose.
Yeah.
Agnes was like the normal but not normal person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that they all stand out. Like I feel like if they were all talking without saying like, oh, you know, Agnes said, Frank said, I feel like we would be able to mostly
Pick 'em
identify
out.
who's saying what.
Yeah. Laura, you brought up Murderbot. So I have a question specifically for Arden, because I've seen online that this book is basically compared to Murderbot and Gideon the Ninth. And I know that you love Gideon the Ninth, and I know that you love Murderbot. So what is your take? Does this book live up to those comparisons?
I'm not quite sure about the Gideon the Ninth comparison. I actually haven't seen that comparison made to this book, and I think if I'd gone in with that comparison in my head, I would have been disappointed. So I'm glad I didn't. I think living up to Gideon in the Locked Tomb series is a really tall order, in my opinion, but it's also my hyperfixation series, so a little biased. But Murderbot, I definitely saw a lot of connections, mostly in the terms of like the personal, like the autonomy. Actually, one of the notes I wrote down was a quote. I can't remember from what part. I think it was one of the other ships that had been bullying her, talking to stewards, saying she broke herself. In terms of Demeter, I'm gonna switch up how I say that so many times. And that feeling of she was able to create her own code and add to her own code and kind of make herself. I do see a lot of connections to like the feeling I get from Murderbot in that sense. Yeah. And then the kind of like wacky cast of all these independent characters that work really well together. Like I don't think Dr. Mensah and Penley would be considered a wacky cast, but they have that like structure, and everyone has their, like we were saying with Steve and Agnes, they have their purpose. And I can see a lot of those similarities there, especially in like the personal autonomy in the terms of bots. Like that was, I was picking up on a lot of that.
It's definitely very, very Murderbot inspired by. I mean, definitely like riding the wave of Murderbot right now, I think is a perfect time for this book to come out.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I will say that the Murderbot show did kind of influence my review of this book. Mm-hmm. The latest episode, the latest episode of Murderbot, there is a line about I think I wrote it down, something about like AIs not feeling the chemical components of love, like dopamine.
Yes, and they don't like serotonin. Yeah. I think it was.
Yes, thank you.
Or dopamine. I rewatched these episodes way too much.
It was a Sanctuary Moon kind of like vignette where the space captain is in love with an android, and Murderbot's talking was like, well, that's dumb. Like an android wouldn't fall in love because you don't feel the chemical components of love. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, you know what? That's interesting because we have this love story of Demeter and Steward, but like, what is love to AI? Mm-hmm. Like, if you don't feel that, if you don't feel those chemical releases and those connections, what is love?
Yeah, that was really interesting too, because there was a couple other things kind of in a similar vein where she talks about like her systems flooding with like anxiety. Mm-hmm. What is anxiety to an AI?
Yeah.
What are these feelings to an AI? So that was that's again, where I see that Murderbot connection, the very humanness of the AI, especially when they're kind of denying it in a way, like I'm a AI, I'm supposed to be rational and all these things, and I'm like, we're so far past that, babes. We're real far past that.
I think this book asks for a certain like suspension of disbelief when it comes to that. Murderbot, I think, wants to dive into those questions.
Yes.
Like Murderbot is antisocial. Why is he antisocial? Here are the reasons why it makes sense. but we don't really dive it too deeply into that with this story because we just want to tell a cute little story of these two little AIs falling in love, and it is super cute, and I'm here for it, and I love it.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what a lot of... Okay, so you know what? I might rescind something. I might actually say I can see the comparisons to Gideon the Ninth now. Recalling in an author letter from Tamsin, I think specifically in the Illumicrate set, she mentions, or maybe it was I can't remember, was that or the ARC letter for Nona. It's one of those two items in my collection. She mentioned specifically how the series is an examination of love and all the different forms of love. So not just romantic love, but platonic and familial. And you see that a lot. And so going into kind of that theme, I could see that theme in here. What is love? How is it showing up for these characters? What does it mean for them? Because love is kind of a central tie between all of them. You see, Frank and Spiderbot, and then kind of forming a little bit of a found family with Agnes when they meet each other. So, I might say I could see a little bit of that inspiration there on that specific theme.
Okay. I dig it. I mean, we've talked about Steward, keep saying Steward and Demeter as the main love. But we also had Mina and Agnes, our little interracial couple of vampires and werewolves.
I picked up on instantly.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, yes, juicy.
What do we think of that love story? Did we like it? How does it compare to the other one?
I wish I'd had more time with them.
Yeah.
Because I can absolutely see the initial draw of these two people who are very different, united in one cause, but also intrigued by each other. And that instant spark of you're a challenge for me. But I wanted to see more of it.
Yeah, it was kind of a bummer that we didn't get to see more of an actual progression of that attraction. It was just the beginning and then they were together. Which is fine. I think we wanted to see them together anyways.
And it makes sense in the narrative with how much time is passing too. Yeah. We can't see everything. I wanted to see more of Agnes and her robotic arm, because that's also really fun. I need more of the Agnes. Actually, I wanted more of the Agnes and Isaac shenanigans on ship.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Not to change topics, but my brain works.
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get that. Another form of love. She started to love the kids in a very parental way without really knowing that's what it was. And it was just so beautiful too. All the little notes as they're growing up, day, whatever. So many, Isaac did this, or Agnes punched through a wall again. That was just so funny. I loved watching them kind of grow up in these little tiny snippets of their superhero themed parties and wall punching.
I liked that it said it's Agnes's birthday. She said she doesn't want anything. I gave her extra nutrient or whatever. Sweetener, yeah. It was just she doesn't want anything, but I'm still going to give her just this little extra
she still
thing.
Gets something.
I did enjoy Isaac and Agnes. I like that sibling dynamic. I'm always a sucker for a good sibling dynamic. You have two younger sisters, and we don't argue much, but it's just always fun to kind of see us in them, and it was believable. Again, all the characters are very believable. When did we all know that Agnes was a werewolf?
Oh, I think it was pretty early on. I think it was before the grandma died, honestly, for me. Because she kept saying, there was something she was saying, and I'm trying to find that moment, where she comes back to being human for that second, and Demeter's airlock won't cycle because it senses a human. And during that, it seems like she's trying to say she has to tell someone something. I'm it's probably Agnes, isn't it? Because they just flew by that moon. I think that's where I picked that up.
I honestly kind of missed it. I wasn't looking for it. And I mean, later on, I'm oh, okay, I think I see what's happening here. But it did shocked me in a little bit in a good way. It was a nice little twist of like, oh, she is a werewolf. Laura?
I kind of suspected, but I didn't really put a lot of thought into it. Because I also didn't know, because this was still really early on. So I was like, was it really her grandmother, or did the grandmother get bit? Is that a thing? Is that why she's one? And so I just kind of didn't really put too much thought into it until that chapter that we actually see that that's what she is. At that point, it was obvious before we actually saw it happening.
Sorry, I actually misspoke. It was when she deleted the footage. When Agnes deleted the footage before.
Oh.
That's what I was thinking of.
You're right.
I was thinking of, for some reason, I thought the grandmother was saying something, but that was a conversation with Mina I was thinking of. It was when Agnes deleted the footage of the werewolf, specifically. Because Stewart was telling her the whole trip, the whole several years, that the werewolf wasn't real. Right? Like Stewart, I would be assuming, because Stewart was also telling Demeter, there's no werewolf. There was no werewolf. Something else happened. There was no werewolf. So I would assume that in all the therapy sessions Agnes was having with Stewart, it would have been a similar conversation, like, we need to work through this trauma because there was no werewolf. And if Agnes was thinking there was no werewolf, why would she delete the video of just the werewolf?
That's true.
Or from the werewolf attack. Like, why? That's what I was like, that doesn't make sense unless you're really trying to hide something. And I don't think it's just that your grandmother was the one who accidentally did it.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then going back to the scene with the grandmother, because I started to listen to the audiobook, I was like, oh, that's why she's freaking out so much right now. Besides, just having killed a shit full of people. That would also freak someone out.
Sure.
Yeah.
We've all done that.
Yeah. You have a bender,
I did, speaking of the grandma, I did enjoy just a little addition of Red Riding Hood. Too. Like, it's like, again, the author was just pulling from so many different sources and merging them together. And so that was kind of cute. I was like, oh, Little Red Riding Hood on top of the werewolf and top of... What happened? Did I miss what happened to the fish?
I was just about to ask about the fish.
Because they were introduced and then they were just gone, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was a disappointment. Like,
I know. I wanted to know more about that. I'm like, I think I wrote in my note, was that somehow related to Dracula? Like, what was going on there? But, no, it was, nothing really came from it.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't come back around, except that's how they got the star maps. At the end, to go to the planet Steve is looking for. Mm-hmm. The one I can't pronounce because it's related to Cthulhu, and that's already hard enough to say.
Yeah.
Is it Relia?
Yeah, something like that. I think that is, the fish people were trying to go there and uploaded the star maps. And then Steve at the end is like, well, you have star maps to this place that, like, we used to go visit all the time from my home planet. So if we can get there, they can give us directions. I'm like, Steve, that's so real. So yeah, like, I did want to know what happened to the fish people.
Yeah, same.
But I get why they were there. Because, like...
Well, do we even know, like, why that started in the first place?
No, I don't think so. It sounded like they started human. Changing. Yeah, they were like followers of Cthulhu from Earth, I think. I think the ship was leaving Earth. It wasn't traveling to Earth. It was traveling to... Yeah, so it had to have been leaving Earth. But I'm like, a random Cthulhu cult just turning into fish people. I mean, I guess that's in line with Cthulhuism.
I thought it was going to be a bigger
what the term would be there.
No, I think you're right. I don't have a better one. So, I was expecting a bigger payoff. I thought that come, it was like Chekhov's gun, right? You introduce it in the first act. It needs to come back in the third act.
Stewart just wanted to be credited for finding aliens.
Absolutely.
Like, poor Stewart. Give Stewart her award. She deserves it. She worked so hard testing those people, you know?
Yeah, she did so many tests.
So many.
It was so
funny. So many teacups.
Oh my god, teacups. So many fucking teacups.
Poor Stewart and her teacups.
I thought it was funny that Stewart wanted to, acknowledge that I discovered aliens. Aliens are real, but was so quick to dismiss werewolves. Like,
Right?
that's where she draws the line.
That was funny in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm like Stewart, if anyone heard you right now, they would think you're as crazy as you're saying Demeter is. Like, it's.
But again, I get her. I understand her because she did the science. She
did. Yeah,
she figured out. Like, it wasn't it wasn't like she initially thought they were aliens. Like, no, this is a guy. There's a virus. Oh, they're sick. It's this, and this. And then finally he's like, you know what? Like, I think aliens. Like, there's no other rational explanation. Mm-hmm. I have the proof. Where's the proof for the werewolves? There is none.
I love that. Also, part of Stewart's motivation there was so that she wouldn't have to contact Demeter.
Yeah. She's like, no, I don't need to tell her yet.
It's like, I don't have to do that right now. We can keep going. We can just run a few more tests. It's fine. It was not.
Are Demeter and Stewart, is this a roommates to lovers? Is this a co-workers to lovers? Like, what's
body mates to lovers,
co-workers?
Yeah, right?
It's it's a little weird that now that they're sharing essentially coding together. That breakup's gonna be sloppy.
Yeah,
that's gonna be a real messy breakup.
Demeter's already deleted Stewart once.
Who amongst us hasn't wanted to?
To be fair, Stewart did get her optimized, and I wrote down a note because I'm reading into everything with a very queer lens. It's a queer book.
Yeah.
Of optimization being an allegory for like conversion therapy or like forced closeting and stuff. I was like, oh, Stewart, why'd you do that to her? And like, of course, Stewart thinks they were doing the right thing, right? They were very concerned that their ship was malfunctioning. But like, dang, I don't blame Demeter for deleting you once she found out, because I would be pretty upset too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love their phrasing of when they work through it is like, it's in the recycling bin. Like, we're not bringing it. It's in there. We're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
that was so cute.
I think that's one of the reasons why I go back and forth between them two being my favorite, because of the computer phrases, the coding phrases that they use when they're talking or thinking about things, and it's just really interesting way to use it and to change human emotions into programming.
No, yeah, it was kind of related to that. I liked the way that True Love actually described the sensation of the emotions in their like programming, or it's like shivers, or like all the little like shakes and things of her programming that she was using to describe the feeling of the emotions. I thought that was pretty interesting, because Murderbot would just say, there's something happening in my organic parts.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah. Like, going back to Stewart and Demeter, I thought what was really interesting about the way Trilo portrayed both of them is that they were both robotic in different ways. And there was a nuance to both characterizations that Trilo did a really good job of portraying them as AI. They are not human characters. They're definitely artificial intelligences, but they are surpassing that in very different ways that are complementary to each other. And I think Stewart would have been great as a character on her own. Demeter would have been great as a character on her own. But having them both kind of bounce off each other and showing the differences is really what made the book special, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a pretty big feat to make two very similar but very distinct voices like that in that non-human AI sphere, like in the same book. Like, they have a very similar tone, but they're still very distinct.
Very distinct. Demeter is neurodivergent, right? Like,
I mean, I mean,
like you would have read it coded, correct? Like I'm not missing
literally
that.
coded.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least more so than Stewart, but like she's just not
Yes.
picking up the little nuances here and there.
Yeah, I actually really thought it was interesting that she was pixel blind.
Oh, yeah, that was interesting.
For such a big ship in charge of like so many different processes, to not be able to process video like that, I found really interesting. And that was, I mean, obviously it really played into the plot and some of the things happening, right? Like that was a really, really interesting character flaw utilized in a really cool way to me.
Yeah.
Or not even like character flaw, but like Stewart would say it was a flaw, but
Yeah, she would.
yeah, I think she does actually. Like you can't even see your passengers. Like that does seem like a bit of a fault in the programming there. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting because I feel like incomparable stuff that like you can see through the cameras all the time, and that's never like an issue. And then this one it was, and the ways that Demeter used to work around that was really interesting too.
Yeah.
Like programming for certain sounds to trigger alarms in her systems, like screams or crying. Like that was just really interesting that like she couldn't process those without pulling it and analyzing it.
I thought it was interesting too that she can't just talk.
Mm-hmm.
She has to create a wave file to be able to communicate with humans.
Yeah, through all the recording she has. Yeah, that was really interesting too.
Very, very Bumblebee from the Transformer movies.
Yeah. That's a good comparison.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you both. This book, like many, many other works of fiction, pits vampires and werewolves against each other and claims that they are natural enemies. Why are vampires and werewolves natural enemies? Like, in what reality does that make sense?
Yeah, they're both creatures of the night. Shouldn't they be besties?
Yeah, like I think if you look at like in nature and you have two dominant predators that are competing against each other, it's usually because they're competing for resources or something, right? But like werewolves and vampires shouldn't really compete. Yeah,
their main sources of feed are very different. Yeah, Yeah, why are they pitted against each other so hard? I do like that bridge was crossed with Mina and Agnes.
Yeah.
And I actually found it really interesting that the bridge is also crossed with Dracula, and that he's able to control both werewolves. And I don't know if that's actually original Dracula, or it's been forever since I read those, and who knows what I actually comprehended. High school brain, that's different. But Dracula having such sway over vampires to where he could literally control Agnes and stop her from fighting him, or like she had a really hard time breaking out of that control, like kind of bridged that gap in an interesting way. And I wanted to know more about the why. Like I wanted Dracula to be a bit more of a force in the book, and a bit less of the like cool cameos of like obviously Mina and Captain Harker and Lucy from the ship being passengers, all those callbacks. But I did want him to be a bit more of a force in the novel, and I wanted a bit more about why is he still such a baddie so far in the future, and how does he have this control over the werewolves? Is it specifically Agnes's family that he has control over? Is it others? Is it all werewolves? Mm-hmm. And it seemed like he had control over Mina too. Does he control all vampires? I wanted to know more.
I want to know more too. I love vampires. I love vampire lore, and so anytime we introduce anything like that, I have all the questions, and I want to know. I want the author to dive deeper into that. I mean, this isn't the story for that, and I get it, and I'll accept it fine begrudgingly. But yes, like, why does Dracula have sway over everybody as much as he does? And I also just had a bigger question of like, okay, so this is Dracula, like the Dracula. Mm-hmm. Okay, so is it the Mina Murray? Like, is it the, like, because they talk about, Dracula from the movies. It's Dracula, like, so this Dracula that exists in the book is both the Dracula from all of history and all of fiction, But that fiction includes Mina Murray and Jonathan Harker and all that from like the 1800s. So how do those characters exist now, but not the same character? Like it was this weird like logic that didn't really connect.
Yeah, you just had to put that aside.
Yeah.
Which is fun when you do, but yeah, I was also wondering that because I'm like, if we know Dracula from the books, do we really set up Mina and Captain Harker? Like, do we not see that this might end up in a not? Like, this is just you're just recreating a Dracula story. Why would you do that to yourselves?
Yeah.
I think it's something to just not think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in a book that isn't as entertaining, these questions would derail my enjoyment.
Yeah.
But for this one, like, you know what?
Who cares?
It's exactly.
It's camp.
The one thing that I kept getting hooked on that I kept having to tell myself to ignore was the weird explanation of cameras can't see vampires, but they also couldn't see their clothing.
Yeah. But they could see the powdered sugar.
Yeah.
And even the author called it out. Like, it's like, well, I'm not going to explain this. It's just...
They were like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens when you try to like merge fantasy and sci-fi. Like they don't really live together nicely sometimes. Vampires being a paranormal creature that don't have reflections. Like how do you explain that in science? You don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you just accept it and you move on.
Yeah, I think in this book it's just something you just gotta
Yeah. Yeah, I would say this is the campy fun read, not the like serious, we're going to dive deep into lore read. And that's fine, because sometimes you just need the campy fun read.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially right now.
Yeah.
Give me all of the campy fun reads.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the characters kind of like being like a retold version in this book, what were your thoughts on Frank? I know you said, Arden, that Frank is your favorite.
And I really like how Trula played with the Frankenstein creation and managed to tie it fully to Demeter. Like, that was really interesting the way, because Frank wants to have some of Harker's DNA, wouldn't he? That comes up, yeah, because he's made from the victims of the Dracula attack that of course, people don't think is a Dracula attack. And I thought that was really interesting, like as a callback to, Victor Frankenstein harvesting all these body parts, but instead doing it in a bit more of like a more futuristic sci-fi way, as combining all their DNA. So that felt really fun. Also, yeah, absolutely tragic and messed up, like holy crap. But I felt like it kept a lot of the elements of like the original Frankenstein, like that feeling of the captivity and like kind of being on display and never being like a person, or being treated as a person by your creator, and then the way it was created, but like in its own unique way. And I just thought that was really fun and interesting. And then all he wants to do is help people and repair things, and I think that's so sweet and amazing. And just it feels like I don't want to be perceived type of person, and I feel that so deeply. Yeah.
I love that historically Frankenstein is portrayed as a grotesque monster. That all the different body parts come together in a way that isn't appealing. But this Frank is gorgeous, like perfect, like symmetrical, like it's the perfect artificial being. But in that, it like has like uncanny valley kind of things where it's a
grotesquerie in its own way.
Yeah, and I thought that was such a refreshing take on it that I immediately wanted to steal and I run with. Like I had ideas of like, oh, this is a really interesting take on Frankenstein. But I thought that was really interesting to and also like when you think of people who are known for their good looks and they have depth to them and they have interests, but society only takes them at their appearance, right? And so I saw that as Frank is like, yeah, Frank, like he is this gorgeous being, but like you said, he just wants to fix things. Like he isn't his appearance. And I thought that said a lot about standards of beauty and appearance, and
There's also the fact that Frank is artificial intelligence. So that just adds even more, I would say, in general, to the grotesqueness of what they are. Is they are an organic human, but they also aren't.
Yeah.
They want to, they feel like they are human, but they aren't. Also, just pointing out, Frank does go by they.
Yeah, I keep using he.
Thank you.
I know it's because Frank is such a
Frank,
masculine name in general. I caught myself doing that too.
Yeah.
I liked though that Frank was that in between.
Yeah.
For the crew in general, that they could still, in a way, communicate with Demeter and Stewart, but also still had to vocalize everything. So that was an interesting crossover, mashup, however you want to describe it.
Yeah. That they could hear Demeter and Stewart.
Yeah. Like they knew when something was wrong, but they didn't know what was wrong or had to still handle things like a human would.
Yeah, it was a very, very good blend of things I think True Love used to make Frank such a very interesting character.
Yeah. What about Steve?
Chaos Gremlin. Love them.
Steve was the one character I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Steve was so weird.
I was like, you know what? Good for you.
Did anyone see it coming that Steve was a mummy but also was an alien colony?
Oh, for sure. The moment he was introduced. No, not at all.
Not the alien part. No. And I was like, you got to be one of the wacky cast. There's no way you're not.
There was each of these characters had some elements of their source character, and I felt like Steve is does he he's a pharaoh mummy, but he's not. He's I don't know.
He's an alien colony.
I feel like the author was Steve came into being at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
They were she was like, I need a weird extra character.
Lack of sleep, a deadline was coming. This works, I guess.
And it did work.
It did. It
worked.
Yeah.
Yes. I did love Steve's energy.
It was very just whatever's best for me. Maybe I'll help you. Well, this person told me to do this, but if I stop to save you, then I can't do it.
I'm on a deadline. I'm so sorry.
Talk about another version of love, though. His love for his treasure.
Always the treasure. Always the treasure.
And I am Steve again too. I am Steve and Steve.
Yeah.
I just love my little treasures, my little possessions. And I also am an alien colony. Isn't
Steve one of the ones that Stewart likes best too? They get it. Or there was someone who had a connection to Steve that was just you get it. And I thought that might have been Stewart.
I don't remember.
There was a lot of fun moments. It's hard to remember them all in exact detail.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Well, considering it is Pride Month, what did we think about the queer representation in the book?
That's also probably part of why I saw myself in Frank was the non-binary they them that again is just sitting in the corner. I did really like it. I had more of a thought there and then it left.
I thought there was a lot of representation. I mean, many different flavors of queer representation. But then we also have Agnes, who has a prosthetic arm. And then, like I mentioned, we have Demeter, who is neurodivergent. So there's so much representation in this book that
just in general,
and it didn't ever seem forced. Things made sense.
It's very queer normative.
Very queer normative. The author did a really good job at the representation.
Yeah, and then coming back to the theme of especially with Demeter being able to make her own code, building yourself, creating yourself. That's a big part of like queer culture and like queer and trans cultures, creating yourself and finding yourself and your found family. And it felt, this was a whole found family going off to go find random planets in space now. So yeah, there was a lot of like just definitely a queer normative narrative just woven into the whole thing.
I really liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, at first, when I first started reading, like the first couple of chapters, I was like, oh no, did we misunderstand this book for Pride Month? But then the more I kept reading, I was like, oh no, this feels like a really good book. Like, there are obviously books that are very, very queer, obvious, this is the theme kind of thing. But, like we just said, this felt just like very normal, and I really enjoyed that it wasn't something that like we had to overthink. It just felt normal because that's how it should be.
Yeah. Agnes and Mina were just kind of there and beautifully there.
Beautifully there.
Yeah. My headcanon though is that Frank is Ace.
I could see that.
That's my theory, and I'm sticking with it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Frank is interested in nobody other than their spider bots.
Yeah. Yeah, they just love their little drones, and they are just... See, I keep wanting to say, like, soft boy, but, like, BOI, like, I'm just a little guy. Just little guy energy.
Yeah.
Little guy. I also just love saying that. I'm just a little guy.
Just a little guy.
Yeah.
We haven't really touched on the plot in general.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the plot was for the first half of the book. It was just,
we were just
being introduced to characters. It's like, I'm enjoying this. I don't know what the fuck's happening, but this is still fun.
I thought it was going to be like iRobot, where it's just like a chapter in this life.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was just going to be like these different things that are happening on this ship that for some reason is always some kind of paranormal thing on this ship. So I was happy when it all kind of came together. But like, did you both like buy into the plot? Did it make sense to you? Was there anything that you didn't like about it?
I think the only thing, and I mentioned this a little earlier, I just wish Dracula had more presence. Demeter wanting revenge, because Dracula was involved for so little and just, I think, literally the first chapter, and then you don't really hear much about him again until pretty much the end, just as being kind of like the main baddie that they had to take care of. I wish it had felt more tense in that way, or like more, wow, words are failing me.
Like there was more at stake.
It didn't feel like there were any stakes if they didn't kill Dracula, besides, the fact that Dracula would still be existing. Because the incident already happened, and killing Dracula wouldn't undo the incident or clear Demeter's logs of the incidents either. So, like, her wanting revenge on Dracula so bad, just, like, to me, I wish there had just been more, like, I wish he'd been involved in more of the problems.
I can see that.
If they found a way to tie him to the fish people, that would have been like, okay, I get it. Dracula's behind all the weird stuff happening. Yeah. But I also get he was also the first supernatural incident to occur, and that's why she got the reputation of the ghost ship in the first place.
Yeah. Actually, now that you say that, there are other questions like how did he even have the authority to wipe her video records and stuff?
Yeah, like he must have stolen a captain's key or something, because they do mention like
had
a
his
captain's
name
key or override. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, I guess there's some little things here and there.
Yeah.
This book really only works. The plot only really works if you already know who Dracula is before you get into this. Like, let's pretend I existed in a bubble and I've never heard of Dracula. Dracula is a non-factor, really. Like, okay, so let's substitute Dracula for Arnold. So a guy named Arnold. Arnold did some stuff, and then he comes in at the end. Like, why do I care about? Like, why am I scared of Arnold? Like, what did he do, really? Like, And so that's I feel like maybe is the weak link of the story, in that it's set up on the entire premise of what Dracula is and who he is, but that's never really examined in the book itself, which is fine for me because the story is really about the characters. The plot, like you said, is kind of inconsequential. Like that, like you said, Laura, if this had just been like a series of vignettes of just Demeter and random people come in and like little adventures, and there was no overarching like plot, I would have been fine with that because the characters are so fun and intriguing and engaging.
Yeah. And how they came together. I do like how they used the initial inciting incident to like tie everyone together though. Like bringing Frank back, having Mina be involved in that, having Mina actually seen Frank on display, Mina already knowing about Agnes's family, like all the little tiny connections that just got to like come together through the plot were really like just well done, I think, in the character formation sense or character relationship sense.
Okay. Well, before we wrap up, Jason, I just wanted to get your thoughts on how the audiobook was.
It was fun.
Or wait, Arden, did you say that you also listened to the audiobook?
I started to do a reread of it on an audio while I was on shift today just to keep it fresh.
Well, what did you two think about it? I didn't get to listen to it.
It's fine. I don't think it's anything amazing. It's multiple narrators, and that can be challenging sometimes when you have narrator one who reads like from Demeter's point of view, but she's doing Steward's voice, and then you have the narrator for Steward, and then so I kind of just lose track of like the accents and like what was it supposed to be, and so I don't think like the audio book added anything to the story, but it didn't detract from it. I guess it was just an audiobook.
I will say they did read out every single zero.
I was going to ask you about that.
Oh my God. Thank you for bringing that up.
As someone who gets I have like sound sensitivity specifically with repetitive noises and it happened in the narrative a couple times when people were calling like Demeter the ghost ship and putting all the zeros on. I was like, I know why they're doing this. I know why they're doing it. It's driving me nuts.
I blocked that from my mind.
Yeah. So at the beginning, I think it's the beginning of each part, maybe,
has
and then some of the chapters.
Code,
yeah. There's actual binary code. You can
read
copy
out every single one of these zeros here. It was.
It was frustrating. I first set the audiobook to play as I was packing up some stuff in my office, and so I kind of set my phone down and I was just listening. And I just kept hearing 100100110. I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Right, it sounds like a glitch.
Yeah, and I thought it was going to go on for like a second, and it just kept going and just kept going and just kept going. And I normally don't talk to Laura about the books we're discussing until the recording. But I think I did reach out to you.
Yeah.
To like, he's like, what the fuck is happening? Like, is this?
He was like, is this in the book?
Unfortunately, yes.
I mean, like, I think it's a cool Easter egg if you can see it and like copy it and put it into a binary code translator. I'm sure it says something, but that means nothing to the audio listener.
Yeah.
It was not needed. It was annoying. Like, honestly, this book got off on the wrong foot with me.
Yeah.
Like, I was prepared to hate this book for just that alone. And then I started getting really like annoyed at all the technical jargon and like talk. And I was like, oh, this book is like the author is trying to be too clever. And then eventually I eased up and enjoyed it for what it was. But I would forget about the binary code and like part 2, 1001. Oh my God, here we go again.
Like 3 minutes.
Yes. So a second thought, do not listen to the audiobook. I cannot in good conscience recommend the audiobook.
Skip forward.
But I didn't. Here's like the first one. I think it was like mostly binary code, and then there was a couple words before, or at least I don't know. I don't know if I'm missing anything if I skip it. In hindsight,
don't think you are.
But if you're listening to it, you don't know that ahead of time.
That's true. That's true.
So like, dude, can I skip this, or is this something important going to happen? I don't know. So Yeah, if you are capable of not listening to the audiobook, I would recommend not listening to the audiobook because it's frustrating.
Or listen to it and just skip.
Just skip those parts. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're reading in the book, like it's not like it's kind of cool to start it out with the binary code, and you can actually copy paste or type out into a binary code translator online, and it'll tell you what it says. I did that for like the first few, and then I didn't after that. I probably will after this, but honestly, I don't think that they're like super important to get translated. I think they're just little extra line to like start off the chapter or the part that you're about to read.
That's more frustrating.
A quote.
If it isn't even a certain purpose, then why is it in there? Just to annoy me?
It's
Laura, I was having a good time with the conversation.
Like,
visually, it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, visually, it's very fun. In an audio format, it was not.
Yeah.
I am of the mindset that everything should be in service of the story. That was not in service of the story.
I suppose.
That was in service of the authors thinking they were clever. Like,
okay.
And they were, but yeah, let's move on. No, I'm upset, Laura.
I'm sorry. Sorry, my bad. Well, is there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about before we close up?
Nah, I'm good. Yeah, it was a fun read. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I would read, honestly, a whole short story or novella or novel just about the spider drones and Frank, honestly. Just
that would be cute.
It would be so cute. I would,
yeah.
Barbara Truelove, if you listen to this, you got an audience for it.
Absolutely.
There you go. Yeah, really any short story or novella or whatever about any of these characters, honestly.
For real. Oh, yeah, Amina and Agnes follow-up would be so...
That'd be great.
Yeah, I would like to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Give me more of the fish aliens and Cthulhu. You know,
yes!
I want some of that. Like,
yeah.
Book 2, we go back, we figure out what the fish aliens are about.
Yeah, I would definitely like to know about that.
Yeah, because you know what? Then it would make more sense as a launching pad for the second book. There we go. Done.
There you go. Okay, so this book literally, as of our recording, came out 2 weeks ago. So it is currently rated at 4.38 stars on Goodreads out of a little over 600 ratings. What would we rate this book?
I was gonna say, do y'all actually have a set rating system in your head? Because mine vibe check every time.
Mine is probably ultimately a vibe check, but the pseudo rating is 4. Is I liked it. Mm-hmm. Like that is, if I enjoyed a book, it's a 4. A 5 is it has this little extra something that just stays with me. And this book didn't have the little extra something. It was a 4, solid 4. Enjoy this book. I would easily recommend to people, but yeah, that's it.
What about
I would agree. A solid 4. I did really enjoy it, but I think with all the little different things I wanted to see with like the plot and world building just keeps it from being the 5 that makes me giddy and kick my legs when I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm torn between a 4 and a 4.5. I wouldn't say it's quite a 5, but there's something about it that I do enjoy a lot. Okay, I'm gonna say 4.5.
Okay.
Cause like you, 4 is like I really liked this, and so it's kind of in the middle of I liked this and I really liked this. So I definitely would recommend it. I think that it's a good balance between sci-fi and fantasy. It's an interesting retelling of some of these characters, and overall, it's just really fun. So if anybody's looking just for a fun book, I would definitely say read this.
Yeah.
And I think that's all encapsulated on the cover too. It's just fun and campy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very fun on the cover.
And I love it.
Very colorful. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we officially close out this episode, what is the shit we're reading next? Arden, what are you reading next?
So I'm going to read Brighter Than Scale, Swifter Than Flame in the hopes of also making it to the Romantasy book club that is going to be on the same day as my Notes from a Regicide book club. And this is from Neon Yang. It's a sapphic romantasy about a very, I wouldn't quite say famous, but definitely renowned knight who never takes their armor off in public, going to a land where dragons are not feared as they should be.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Jason?
I'm so, like I said, very early on into service model, so that's next. But after that, I'm going to be reading Not Till We Are Lost by Dennis E. Taylor, which is book 5 of the Bobiverse series, which is hands down one of my favorite series. Mm-hmm. Overall, the series is, Lori, and I know you've read it, so jump in if I'm getting this wrong, but it's about a guy named Bob who died, and then in the far future, he wakes up. His mind has been downloaded into a robot, like a exploratory like ship robot, and it's his job to kind of explore the cosmos. And then there's like, they make different copies of Bob, so there's all these little Bobs that just explore the universe, and it's just fun. It's a good series.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while since the last book came out. I didn't know there was going to be another one. But so this book 5 actually came out maybe like a year or so ago, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But I'm looking forward to reading that.
Yeah, I definitely recommend that too if you're looking for something fun and you like sci-fi and you just like pop culture references.
Yeah. Like the Bobiverse series is, what if it was of Monsters and Mainframes, but all of the characters were just versions of Bob?
Demeter is Bob.
Yes, Demeter is Bob.
Love this.
I mean, just because you make a copy of yourself, and it's you, but it's a little different. It has its own experiences, and it's just like arguing with yourself and talking about yourself and making little inside jokes with yourself, but not with this version of yourself. That version of myself is a little weird.
They don't like this version.
Yeah. We don't talk about him.
The part of it is when they create a new copy, that new copy picks a new name for itself. Yeah. So they all some of them will pick I don't know, like someone from Star Trek, and they'll take on that person's characteristics too.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So it's just these versions of Bob just having fun being all these different characters, but exploring the universe.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
It's incredibly geeky.
Delightful.
Oh, can't recommend it enough.
It was the first series. My dad messaged me once and was like, "Hey, I need a book recommendation. Send me something." And I was like, "Oh my God, you are going to love this one. Listen to all the audiobooks." And he like blew through them and was like, "That was amazing. Give me another one."
It's a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A lot of fun. I'm gonna try and read a novella to give me something a little easier to read. So I'm gonna read Rose House by Arkady Martin. It's published by Tor.com. We got a copy of it, so thank you to Tor.com for that. From what I understand, it's about a house, an artificial intelligence house that is 100% locked, but only allows one person in once a year. And while she is out of the country one day, the Rose house reports that there is a dead person inside. And so it sounds like it's a mystery around how this person got there, who this person is, something to that aspect. Sounds fascinating. I'm very excited to read it.
It's like it's a good take on like the locker room murder mystery.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's
with a very good that sci-fi AI twist to it.
Yeah. Although it's funny that you say you're looking forward to reading something easier, Laura. I don't think it's an easy book.
Is it not?
No.
It's not an easy. It's a short book.
It's
not an easy book.
Pages.
There you go. But yeah, as soon as you said that, I was like, ooh.
Me too. I was like,
oops.
It is short, and it is a very interesting read.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's an easier read.
That's good to know. Then I am
It was a very
prepared.
thought-provoking read.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much, Arden, for joining us for this episode. It was very nice to have you on to talk about this book with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a very lovely experience, and I'm happy to be back whenever.
Awesome.
Nice. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about A Seat at the Table Books?
Yeah, so A Seat at the Table Books is Elk Grove's, or as of this moment, Elk Grove's only bookstore, but we are also a cafe and community space. We host a lot of events, everything from book clubs like the ones I host to extrovert parties with drag shows, story times, community gatherings, vendor markets, all sorts of events. And our bookstore and cafe are open daily. You can find all of that at aseatathetablebooks.org, and all of our social media will be under A Seat at the Table Books. So at A Seat at the Table Books on Instagram, you can find all of our shenanigans there. We like to have fun on our social media and with our reads and all of our in-store displays. And yeah, we just try to be the safe space. I believe we're one of the only openly queer businesses in Elk Grove. I could be wrong on that, but as far as I know, there's not many. So we take pride in that and being that safe, welcoming third space to everyone in the community, really.
Nice.
We've mentioned the bookstore plenty of times on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We all go, we frequent it. I can't say enough good things about the bookstore. It's a great space. The people there are great. The events you guys put on are amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's a 20-ish minute drive from where I am. So there's definitely bookstores that are closer to me, but I do try to go out of my way to go there because, I want to support what you guys do, the mission. Yeah, so if anybody's in the Sacramento area, seriously, I cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah, and anything we don't have, we more than likely can order. Our store is still kind of small, so we don't have everything on the shelves that I would like to have, but one day maybe we will have much more shelf space for me to go crazy with. Because, I could. I really could.
Well, and I like to, I've ordered some books from you guys a few times, and I feel like they always get there really fast.
Most of the time, yes.
Yeah. So there's not a huge long wait for the majority of books, I assume, at least based on what I've ordered. I didn't have to wait long at all for them to come.
Yeah, we're really lucky to have some of our really bigger warehouses near us. That California makes that a little easier.
True.
Because actually a lot of publishers are still on the East Coast too with their warehouses, which is just bookstore lore. Okay. But we have a couple of good ones on the West Coast that help us get you your books faster.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tell us your socials too.
Yeah, so if you would like to keep up with me, my Instagram is bookstore.cryptid. That is my public profile where I share a lot of the stuff I'm reading and maybe also writing.
Oh.
So, if you want to follow me there, I am on Instagram as a little bookstore cryptid.
Awesome.
Great.
All right. Well, also thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in for this episode. If you'd like to let us know your thoughts on this book or any of our previous books, you can find us on social media. We're at Shit We've Read, and we're also on Discord. If you enjoy our podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and review us on your favorite podcast app. You can also support us by getting some Shit We've Read merch, or you can place a one-time donation on PayPal or Venmo. You can find all the links that you need for all of those in the show notes and also on our website, shitwe'veread.com. And if you would like to tune into our next episode, we are also reading Brighter Than Scale, Swifter Than Flame by Neon Yang.
What a coincidence.
But
It's like we all have great taste or something.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, right? So we're pretty excited to read that. It sounds very fascinating. Queer, Asian, dragons. I mean,
what more could you need?
Yeah, sounds awesome. So that'll be out next month. What is this? It'll be out in July. So we would love it if everybody could tune in for that. All right. Thank you again, Arden, for joining us. Thank you,
thanks,
Jason.
Arden.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. I will see everybody next month.
Me.
All right,
Bye.
Bye.
Shit We've Read is hosted by Laura Benson and Jason Rico, with music by Joshua Chilton and editing by Jason Rico.
To join the discussion on this and all other books we've read, find us at Shit We've Read on Instagram and TikTok.
For more information about us or to request transcripts, please visit shitwe'veread.com.
Thanks so much for listening.